In this video, we're going to talk about the different outputs, reporting outputs that you can get from Toad Data Point Workbook. And we're going to specifically talk about the outputs from a pivot table. Okay, so I am in a workbook called Customer Query Demo. I'm in Workflow 1 right now, and I've highlighted this Clean Customer Pivot 1. And so what this workflow does is that first it queries customer and contact data, matches it together. Then it cleans up some of that data, performing some transformations against that data. I'm actually outputting that cleaned customer data into local storage. That's what this step is. At the same time, I'm also creating a pivot table of this cleaned customer data. This is a super simple pivot. It's just taking the customer age, which is a calculated field we created during our transform step, and counting how many customers I have by age. Very simple pivot. But let's say I wanted to output this pivot to a report. What are my options? So I'm going to right mouse click on this clean customer pivot item in my workflow and add a step. And I'm going to go to my reporting step. And for a pivot table, there are 4 different kinds of reports that I can create. There's a PDF, which is just a PDF that will look almost exactly like my pivot table as is. There is a CSV file, a comma separated value file, which will create a single row for each one of my pivot items here. So I will create a row for age 42 and it will have a value of 3. We can take a look at that. But I think what's of most interest here is what is Excel and Pivot Excel. And they're 2 different kinds of outputs. We'll start with Pivot Excel because what this will produce, we'll do it here. Let's name this Pivot Excel so remember what we're doing here. And we'll go ahead and generate this report so that we can see the output. This will actually create an Excel report that has 2 tabs. It will have the tab of the data as it's shown in the pivot, but it actually outputs the full pivot, the full detail from that report. So it outputs all of the rows of detail and then creates the pivot using Excel pivot features. So that is the Excel pivot output. Now let's create another output here that is just an Excel output. And we'll call this just Excel to differentiate it. And we'll go ahead and generate that report right now. And you can see this is a different output into Excel. It just mimics exactly what I have here on the pivot and just outputs this information, not in a pivot table format, but just in a normal grid format. Okay, so if I wanted my consumer of this Excel report to be able to come out here and do a filter on this item here, this is probably one of the better ways to output it. If they don't need all that detail and they just need to filter through the pivot values themselves, this is a great and easy way to do it. By its nature, this Excel workbook is going to be much smaller than the original workbook that was created when I did the Excel pivot because I don't have to output the detail. Just looking at some of the other outputs that we can do, let's go ahead and add them here so we can kind of see. Off of this pivot table, we'll do a CSV file and we'll generate this report. Okay, CSV files, in my system, they're automatically opened by Excel. That's why Excel opened it, even though the file name you can see up here is a .csv. And again, it's just showing the data as is, not putting any detail, just mimicking again what we have on this pivot report. And then lastly, let's take a quick look at what a PDF looks like. And we'll go to the reporting and go to PDF. And we'll have it generate this report as well. And you can see it's almost exactly what I have on the screen, just in a PDF format. So hopefully that gives you some ideas of the different kind of reporting outputs that you can create from the system.